Police! Stay where you are! Police! Police! Stay there! Stay there! Stay there! Stay there! Shut Get in there! Get in there! Get in there! Stay there! Stay there! Stay there!
A London court has found 5 Bulgarians guilty of acting on orders from Moscow to surveil, kidnap, and possibly kill the Insider's lead investigator, Christo Grozev, and its editor-in-chief, Roman Dobrokhotov. The group was led by Jan Marsalek, an Austrian spy working for the Kremlin.
The court confirmed that the Russian state had attempted to orchestrate the kidnapping and murder of the journalists.
This was a carefully planned assassination operation. The goal was to show that critics of the Kremlin can be hunted down anywhere, in broad daylight, across different countries in Europe. And the order for this came directly from Vladimir Putin.
Marsalek literally says that he is personally against the plans to kidnap and kill me, but apparently that is the instruction from the FSB because, quote-unquote, Putin really hates this guy.
Efforts to get at the journalists continued for 2 years across a range of European countries, with Kremlin agents using secret cameras, false passports, hacked data, and honey traps. The scale of the operation was staggering. The team had at their disposal 221 mobile phones, 495 SIM cards, 258 hard drives, 33 audio recording devices, 55 visual recording devices, 11 drones, 16 radios, 3 IMC grabbers used for intercepting phone signals, 75 passports, 55 of them fake identities. The surveillance of Dobrokhotov and Grozev began in December 2020, immediately after their investigation into the Kremlin's poisoning of opposition figure Alexei Navalny with Novichok was published. The Insider, together with Bellingcat, revealed the names, photographs, and travel records of officers from the FSB's Second Service and Criminalistics Institute who had followed Navalny and later poisoned him in Tomsk.
And I do remember Alexei Navalny's words, probably the last words that he exchanged with me before he left for Russia from Berlin. He said that, in his view, until that moment, he had been the biggest annoying person, the most annoying, hated person by Putin. And from that moment on, I would be the one because we embarrassed him and his favorite intelligence service through the investigation into the Navalny poisoning. So he might have been right.
The operation was assigned to a longtime Kremlin agent, Jan Marsalek. Marsalek was no ordinary spy. As the former chief operating officer of Wirecard, he was deeply embedded in both the business and intelligence underworld. Before fleeing to Russia in 2020, he was responsible for one of the largest financial frauds in recent history, stealing billions from Wirecard through a network of shell companies. Interpol has issued a red notice for his arrest. Yet in Russia, he was not just protected, but actively used by the Kremlin for operations, like this one. On December 14th, Marsalek contacted his longtime associate, the Bulgarian Orlan Rusev. Rusev specialized in IT and had helped Marsalek with surveillance operations for many years. The Insider has obtained their correspondence.
So the arrest warrant is apparently the legal framework needed for a kidnapping. Tried to find out why we did this, and that was the answer. Personally, I find Grozev not to be a very valuable target, but apparently Putin seriously hates him.
Later, British investigators identified other members of Rusev's group. It included Vanya Gabarova, Christo Grozev's future honey trap, 43-year-old medical courier Bizar Jambasov, his 33-year-old partner Katrin Ivanova, who worked as an assistant in a medical laboratory, 39-year-old decorator Tihomir Ivanchev, and 32-year-old former MMA fighter Ivan Stoyanov.
Putin was convinced that these weren't just data brokers or journalists. It was the CIA or MI6 that had leaked everything to the press.
Это не какое-то расследование. Это легализация материалов американских спецслужб. А что, мы не знаем, что они локацию отслеживают, что ли?
So Marsalek and his team's objective was to uncover supposed links to the CIA or MI6 that had enabled me and Christo Grozev to track down the poisoners.
It seems indeed that in the beginning the plan and the tasking by the FSB was only to surveil me and Roman, to probably steal my phone or his phone or my laptop to find out what's on these devices. But that was only in the first months. And in some cases, they even discussed the possibility of an assassination through poisoning or using a sledgehammer or even burning my home And all of that clearly were instructions that were coming from the FSB.
The methods considered for assassination of the insider's journalists were as brutal as they were theatrical. Poisoning, much like the Skripal case, was on the table. But other ideas included burning them alive, hanging, and they even suggested abducting Grozev and staging his death as an accident.
I guess a more efficient and strong message will not be kidnapping Grozev, but actually killing him like either 1. Stepan Bandera in Germany, or 2. Killing him like Leon Trotsky in Mexico.
I agree, though an axe is yesterday's weapon. Better a sledgehammer, Wagner style. I'll pass it on.
They were considering both possibilities. Clearly, the Kremlin had no objections to the idea that it could be an assassination as well, but I think their primary goal was kidnapping, to interrogate us and provide Putin with information on how all these investigations were even possible, particularly the one into Navalny's poisoning.
Brute force and surveillance were not their only tool. The Kremlin agents also deployed a honey trap operation, recruiting a woman to get close to Grozev.
From the chats, we see that the team planned to use a honey trap, one of the women that was recruited by the Marsalek team, to lure me and maybe to put me in a compromising position in order for this to be filmed and put on YouTube or on Pornhub.
The woman in question was 30-year-old Vanya Gabarova, a cosmetologist by profession, who added Grozev as a friend on Facebook. Her goal was to seduce him and get access to his electronic devices.
By mid-January, the FSB realized that neither the CIA nor MI6 had been involved. The information had been obtained by 3 data brokers, fraudsters with fake Interior Ministry IDs who had retrieved it on request from journalists. But of course, no one dared report to Vladimir Vladimirovich that he had been mistaken and there was no CIA involvement. If the boss said there was a CIA trail, then a CIA trail had to be found.
As time went on, their mission evolved. They were no longer just following Grozev. They were actively plotting kidnappings and assassinations.
Some fucking genius just suggested again to kidnap Grozev and to take him to Moscow. These people never learn.
If you are serious about it, and if Grozev is in Bulgaria, I have the resources to kidnap, drug him, and lock him up in one secure cave. Then we need to plan the extraction process. We will need a plane or a boat.
Honestly, I think it's a bad idea. It will be just bad press, and 6 months later, there are 2 new Grozevs. It's like a hydra. You cut off one head and 2 new ones emerge.
But if they want it, I'm happy to give it a shot. It'd be a cool project.
A few days later, on July 26, 2021, Christo Grozev arrived in Bulgaria and was vacationing near the coastal city of Burgas. Around the same time, Rusov messaged Marsalek.
Very good news. We almost have him. See the boat he took a selfie on? We also have his accommodation place where he stays. 99.9% chance we have a selfie with Grozev tonight.
Now if we'd find someone we could contract for a suicide attack on him, it would be best. I like the idea to blow up the boat.
Roman Dobrokhotov had also planned to fly to Burgas, but early in the morning on July 28th, FSB officers came to search his Moscow apartment. The formal pretext was a defamation complaint filed by Dutch blogger Max van der Werf, whom the journalist had accused of working for the GRU, Russia's military intelligence arm. However, the real goal of the security forces was to seize all gadgets they could find in the apartment, as well as both of Dobrokhotov's foreign passports.
Apparently, this was an attempt to find at least some traces of involvement by Western intelligence agencies. Of course, they found nothing, but they took my foreign travel passports so that I couldn't leave Russia. As a result, I had to cross the border on foot without a passport. That's how I ended up in Ukraine.
Over the next months and year, I helped Roman escape Russia into Ukraine and then into Austria. And it seems that this added more annoyance and more reasons for the FSB and Russian intelligence services to have a problem with me. So the plans apparently changed in the meantime, and some of the new instructions that were given through Marsalek to his spies in London were to find the best location for me or for Roman to be kidnapped.
I only found out that there was an actual abduction plan after I had already moved to Vienna. That's when I got a call from acquaintances with ties to Ukrainian intelligence, who told me they had clear evidence, intercepted communications obtained by Ukrainian intelligence.
In Vienna, the surveillance of Grozev and Dobrokhotov continued. The Kremlin-sponsored group had little success, yet Rusov blamed their failures on Christo's ability to evade surveillance. For example, see how Grozev manages to escape from his Bulgarian pursuers in an unusual way. By riding away on a scooter. The incompetence became their downfall. They rented an apartment directly across from Grozev's home, believing they had the perfect vantage point. What they didn't realize was that their movements were also being monitored.
They couldn't even manage proper surveillance. They would occasionally send Marsalek updates, sending photos of what they claimed was Christo Grozev's house in Bulgaria, but it was some random house with no connection to him whatsoever. They would also report supposed fantastic successes, such as a Bulgarian woman they had allegedly sent to approach Christo Grozev, claiming she was making great progress, that Christo was already liking her photos and was practically in love. In reality, Christo hadn't liked any of her photos and had no idea she even existed.
Grozev seems hooked and in love with Vanya. He started liking her pics and posts. We can move slowly to a romance. Shall we push slowly for a date?
She'd be up for that? Let's wait a little. Let's not underestimate the guy and his paranoia.
That girl is real hot. She's a swinger too. I think after getting shaken with the mugging robbery, he will be slightly depressed. And an excellent opportunity for a girl to appear and help him relax.
I never noticed any of these women. I definitely didn't notice the woman that was planned to be my honey trap. But after she was arrested and her face became known from publications, I checked my Facebook history and I did discover that at some point in August 21, she had befriended me. She had sent me a friend's request on Facebook.
The Bulgarians followed the journalists on various trips, gaining access to their travel itineraries.
They knew our flights in advance, and they got this information through the Amadeus system. It's a data sharing system used for booking tickets.
This video was recorded by Vanya Gaberova using a hidden camera in her glasses to film Christo and Roman in Montenegro in the summer of 2022, where the journalists had traveled for a conference. Rusev's group even managed to steal Christo's phone and a laptop.
In Valencia and Montenegro, they broke into Christo Grozev's hotel room, and at one point, they even entered his apartment in Vienna. They took a laptop, but it was a completely random one, which actually didn't even belong to Christo, but to his late mother, and there was nothing on it either.
By early 2023, Dobrokhotov was living in London, and the Bulgarians planned to carry out the operation to kidnap him there. The fact that the group possessed UK residency permits allowed them easy access to the country.
We might have the opportunity to abduct Dobrokhotov by boat. Any ideas on how to do it?
We'll be brainstorming the idea with Bisser Dambazov.
A successful operation in Britain would be very convenient after the Skripal failure.
The police have very poor control over the eastern coastline, which illegal migrants take advantage of all the time. Dobrokhotov would be an illegal migrant in reverse.
The problem is how to pick him up in international waters. I'm not sure the guys here would trust our abilities enough to put us in command of a submarine.
The plan was to extract me from there. First, they would put me in a car, take me to the coast, and then transfer me to the Russians by boat. The main issue was where exactly to hand me over to the Russians and how.
However, before the Bulgarians received the green light from Moscow to act, British intelligence agencies picked up their trail.
British intelligence located and arrested them, and immediately, several of the detainees confessed, realizing there was no point in trying to conceal anything. They were caught with mobile phones that contained the history of their correspondence with Marsalek, making everything clear and unmistakable.
They allowed Marsalek to conduct this operation. They gave him budgets. They gave him 2.5 years to manage to kidnap us or to at least compromise us, and that didn't work out. Considering that the reason why they started this operation against us was because they were embarrassed by the Navalny investigation, now they're doubly embarrassed because this failed.
The trial of the Bulgarians lasted 5 months. In the end, the jury found them guilty of espionage on behalf of Russia. The court confirmed that the Russian state had attempted to organize the kidnapping and murder of investigative journalists from the insider.
So I cannot imagine how they would stop trying to get to us. But I think they're going to be much more professional and much more discreet in the future.
The insider's journalists continue their work despite pressure from Russian authorities. You can support them by liking this video, leaving a comment, and subscribing to our channel. If you'd like to further support their efforts, consider making a donation by clicking the link in the description below.